Who is this? Why did you call me Mark?
Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy. One of the coolest things about Moon Knight Episode 1 is that after the first episode, I have no idea where this show is going to take us. I've even read a bunch of Moon Knight comics, and this show still has the opportunity to surprise me. But I'm most curious about how this character is going to connect to the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. I have a couple of theories I'm going to share later on with a couple of Marvel superfans, Rachel Leashman and Nando from Nando V Movies. But first, I want to talk about this first episode and tell you why this is so exciting. Now, if you read the comics or watch our channel, then you know that Moon Knight is a guy named Mark Spector who's suffering from dissociative identity disorder, DID, commonly known as multiple personality disorder. So the pilot was brilliantly told from the point of view of one of his alternative personalities, and it skipped over the usual superhero origin story. Now, we might get to see all of that later, but for now, Moon Knight is following a template set by other Marvel Disney Plus shows. Each of these shows has presented some kind of mystery box, a reason for the audience to come back every week. Why are these characters in a TV show? Who is the power broker? Who are the timekeepers? Who is Uncle? Heck, What If even teased out what the Watcher was for the first few episodes. They only showed him like as this big dude up in the sky. And with Moon Knight, we may know his origin and his disorder, but we don't know his backstory. Like why he's chained himself to his bed. Has he lost time like this before? Even the villain is a total reinvention from the comics, taking a barely used baddie and meshing him with the god Ammit from the Jeff Lemire run. This show is not based on a single Moon Knight story. It's taking all the best aspects of the character from many books and reinventing him for the screen. Now that's very exciting for comic fans, but for fans of the MCU, it's even more exciting to see how this very weird, off-the-wall character can connect to the wider tapestry of the MCU. Let me throw out two theories, one that's dumb and one that's a lot of fun. The dumb one. The show Loki ends with He Who Remains explaining that his variant is a really bad guy.
And if you think I'm evil, well, just wait till you meet my variants.
And then we see that that same variant has conquered the TVA. This is Kang the Conqueror, likely the next big bad supervillain of the MCU. But comic fans will remember that Kang used to go by a different name, Rama-Tut. He's from a distant future and he traveled back to the past to conquer Egypt because he was bored. It's the real reason, he was bored. So maybe in the MCU, Kang did all this, but the gods of Egypt like Khonshu used their avatars to expel him. After being expelled from Egypt, he decides, screw it, I'm just going to conquer all of reality. And here's my not so dumb theory. Apocalypse. He is the first mutant, thousands of years old, and actually ruled ancient Egypt for a time. And yes, Oscar Isaac already played Apocalypse in the X-Men films.
This earth will be laid waste, that it is I, who will wreak this upon them.
Well, pack your bags, because we're sending you right back where you came from.
And that movie was
Both bogus and sad.
But Apocalypse could still be done right in the MCU. Here's what I'm thinking. What if Apocalypse was not a mutant, but instead was an ordinary guy and a follower of the god Ammit? See, Apocalypse believes in survival of the fittest, and Ammit is all about judging the worthiness of people's souls. So, Ammit, back in the day, granted Apocalypse powers as her avatar, just like Khonshu has given Moon Knight powers. And remember what Harrow said about Ammit's avatar?
But she was betrayed.
By even her own avatar.
So, Apocalypse betrays Ammit and seizes power for himself. As a result, he took power away from the gods of Egypt. But those gods had already bestowed normal humans with their powers, and this is the ancient origins of mutants in the MCU. So that's just my theory, but let's bring in a couple of Marvel experts for their takes. We have Rachel Leashman from The Mary Sue and Nando from Nando V Movies. Where do we want to see these connections at? Like what, you don't have to lay out the most outlandish theory, but obviously there's Midnight Suns, there's, we have Blade meeting Black Knight, and maybe Ghost Rider looming in the future. But where do we think we'll see these connections to the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe? Rachel, do you want to go first?
Sure. I hope Nick Cage rolls in his Ghost Rider
for real. That would be great. He totally could too. I feel like you could get him too.
Get Johnny Blaze back.
Yeah,
he would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In serious note, I have my selfish ones, which is I feel like the Stephen Grant and Mark Spector from the show would get along with Wanda really well, and I think that would be a fun dynamic to explore outside of the obvious choices of Blade and Kit Harington and things like taking that out of it, because obviously that's where he probably is going to go fit in. I do know there's some stuff with Spider-Man, so again, my selfish brain is I would like to see Moon Knight and Spider-Man together.
And Daredevil, there's quite a few Daredevil team-ups, but in the comics, he
Yeah.
really doesn't have powers. So Daredevil's
Yeah.
a more natural team-up for him. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, and now that we have the Defenders and all of the Hell's Kitchen characters back, I do think that that could happen too. Like the thing about this character in particular is that he can kind of fit in anywhere, and you can make him work in Hell's Kitchen, or you can make him work with Blade, and it's kind of all up in the air. And I know, like Mohammed Diab said, he could see him with a movie, and he can see him doing more of this show, and he can see Moon Knight in the future. And I agree with him completely. Like, I think you can kind of put him anywhere in the MCU and it would work.
I will say, too, the other character that I think would be fun to pair him up with that we couldn't do yet, but we could in the future if this guy kicks around, is Wolverine. Like, they have an interesting dynamic, and there was that in the Bendis run. Wolverine was one of the characters that characters in our world, but, like, one of the personalities that he, like, internalized. So, yeah, I think it'd be kind of fun to watch those two guys just go kill guys together, you know, just like...
And I think Oscar Isaac would lose his mind, because he's talked about how much he loves Wolverine.
I saw that.
Like,
because he's short, just like me. Me and him get it, you know? We all...
Oh, that's why I said him, Daniel Radcliffe. I was like, they're all going to get me the short Wolverine that I want, because I'm tired of everyone being like, here's this tall guy. It's like, no.
God, imagine Daniel Radcliffe being Wolverine. I know that's a fan cast out there, but every time I think about that, I'm like, that is like
he's
full circle.
He's a good actor. Like, he's a
great actor. Yeah, he can pull it off.
He's got a lot of range.
Well, he's little. He's like a little angry Pomeranian that you put on the table. I love him.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Wolverine, mutants, team-ups, things like that, we're talking about ancient Egypt here, right? In the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I also look at this and go, you know, Egypt, gods, there's Apocalypse. Not that they're going to do Apocalypse anytime soon. Not that they're going to have Apocalypse necessarily appear near Isaac in the same property as Oscar Isaac too soon, because we don't want to remember, you know. There is some potential here for like a fun crossover moment. You know, like in the MCU, there's other characters who have deep histories and past rooted in Egypt. Do you guys have anything fun that you think, you know, would be really cool to see, like theory-wise, like, or MCU connection? You can be as stupid and as outrageous as you want.
Well, because I'm always going to rep for my girl, I'm going to say that Wanda brings in the little X-Men, and that's how Apocalypse gets here. Because Wanda, I think I still stand by that she's going to end up doing a reverse House of M. And I just moved it from WandaVision to now Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And instead of getting rid of the X-Men, she's bringing them in. And that's why Patrick Stewart's there. And so I think then that's how we could get Apocalypse with Moon Knight as a team up, because she brings all of the X-Men into the main timeline of the MCU.
Like maybe in another universe, we talked about this in a video about Wanda being a variant of Jean Grey. Maybe in another universe, Xavier's universe, she did know more mutants. So they see her as the multiversal threat in Multiverse of Madness. So to make up for it, she reverses it. And then, boom, mutants in the MCU.
I don't know, because like I feel like the outlandish Marvel theory for me is just, who do I really like, and would I like to see? You know what's a dumb one? It's a real dumb one, but maybe it could be this. So right now, there's stuff going on the moon, right? Something, maybe Captain America's on the moon, maybe the Watcher's on the moon, maybe the Inhumans are on the moon. Let's send Moon Knight to the moon to defend it or something.
And that's how we know Steve Rogers is there.
Yeah, have him team up with Captain America, one of the other personalities that he kind of, accumulates in the Bendis run. Like, it would make so little sense, but he's been in space. He's done nonsense like that before. It's not crazy, but...
And Steve Rogers being on the moon, it's kind of like Umbrella Academy, but it also obviously was referenced in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I'm sorry, wait, who are you? Captain America. I thought Captain America was on the moon.
Right.
And Nick Fury took over for the Watcher, lived on the moon for a long time. It seems like the Watcher in the MCU, Uatu seems to live in this, doesn't live physically on the moon. He's more in like a glass cage of emotion
like in a mirror
somewhere.
Dimension.
Yeah, he's in a weird, can look at it like realm. But I do like the idea, if Moon Knight draws his power from the moon, that would be the way to make him all powerful. Hell, if we're going with outlandish theories for this show, I can foresee a Moon Knight versus Ammit on the moon, likened to Superman versus Nuclear Man and Superman for the Quest for Peace, where they can just go absolutely full tilt against each other, with Moon Knight luring Ammit to the moon to draw his full power.
Like, I mean, I feel like so that you got Werewolf by Night, don't know exactly how he works, but you got Man-Wolf, J. Jonah Jameson's son, John Jameson.
Oh,
he is a
There you
moon-powered
go.
man who is an astronaut, like, hit by moon cheese or whatever. So, like, if you had him fight Moon Knight on the moon, that would be kind of interesting. I love the idea that he just keeps running into werewolves now that I think about it. Like, get every werewolf-adjacent character before, like, Sony makes a Man-Wolf movie nobody wants. Like, Marvel should, like, trick him
totally
into throwing
will,
him into...
too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But have that be, like, just all the paranormal characters that nobody really likes.
He can kill Morbius real quick.
Oh my god, that would be amazing! Because I know
that'd be
they've
great.
messed around with Morbius and gotten rid of some of the Spider-Man connections because they're awful. But I think that would be so funny if, Marvel just had the first episode of Moon Knight Season 2, if they made one, just cutting off Morbius's head and just going, "You're welcome, kids. Now it's different now." I don't know.
If we do have Moon Knight battling on the moon, because it's all Disney adjacent,
Yep.
I would really like for the soundtrack to be the moon theme from the DuckTales video game. Because always in the MCU, the question isn't, it's always about three things. What's happening, how's it connect, and what's going to happen, right? So when you look at the MCU right now, I know I've talked about this with both of you at separate times. You say, well, we're doing Kang and we're doing the multiverse. It looks like Secret Wars, right? Or some kind of thing where Kang is the big bad villain. Since it's not going to be Secret Invasion, that seems like what we're going toward. What I'm kind of seeing is it looks like there's various groups forming. You have the Young Avengers kind of over here doing their own thing. You've got our mystical guys like Blade popping up, things like that, and Moon Knight. So let's assume it's all going to go toward Secret Wars. Who's the big bad villain for this mystical aspect? You know, are they going to go after a Doctor Strange villain like Nightmare or Dormammu? Is it going to be Dracula? Is it going to be that easy? It's just like Dracula, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I mean, we all know who he is, like, as just people with a working knowledge of film since any time in the last 100 years. So I feel like throwing a Dracula in there makes sense. Nick Cage has his Dracula makeup on still, so we can probably get some of that going.
Yeah.
It'd be easy.
That's the Dracula I want in the MCU.
Yeah.
That can't be
Yeah, you mentioned Moon Knight, but I was like, no, I want to see I want to see everybody's reaction when they find out that Dracula's real.
Yeah.
Because I know it would just be oh, okay. I mean, Thor's real, so it's like
Right,
what Spider-Man
yeah.
says in Far From Home. He's like, well, I mean, Thor used to be a myth, and now he's in our physics class. All right, well, thanks both of you for all your thoughts. I really appreciate it. Rachel, tell us where the people can find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Rachel Leashman. You can follow me on Instagram at Rachel_Leashman. I couldn't get the same handle. You can read my writing at The Mary Sue. And I also host a podcast called Pedro Pascal, where we go through the filmography of Pedro Pascal.
That's great. Oh, I love that.
And Nando, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Nando V Movies. Pretty much what I say is anything where it's a thing, it would be Nando V Movies on that, like Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, but mostly YouTube channel Nando V Movies, where I'm talking about movies and X-Men, a lot of X-Men stuff recently, because they're my favorites, and then also my podcast, mostly Nitpicking, where we just pick a movie, either whatever's popular that week, or just whatever is in our heads for whatever reason, and talk about that. We haven't pulled the trigger yet, so but I think, like, you can expect in 2 weeks we'll do Morbius, but then next week we might do the Pinocchio movie with Pauly Shore. So, you know, we're kind of, it's whatever, but mostly Nitpicking is the name of the podcast. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And we want to hear from you guys down in the comments below, or you can at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.